Oneness is a word usually describing the natural state, the enlightened state, oneness, consciousness. What is this oneness? Where is this oneness? Who made that oneness? When did he create that oneness? What does that oneness want from us, separate beings as we are? Why doesn't it show itself to us? If everything is oneness, why don't we see it with our own eyes? How come we see everything so divided into shapes if everything is oneness? To try to describe oneness to the mind who is captivated by the separate mind perception is impossible. And it's very paradoxical, because everything I will say will be processed in your mind, and your mind is programmed in a certain way. It's not your fault, it wasn't my fault before I saw things in a different way in my perception. We'll call it in my brain. We don't have a brain. We are not the one who is perceiving everything, but I have to use some kind of word. So the mind that understands reality is programmed to analyze what it sees. So it's the natural process of thinking, and when I offer a different view of the same reality, the mind can't understand it. The mind can't grasp it. So to describe this oneness is futile. I think this is the word. And yet, because oneness is expressing itself through those words, or this body, or this illusion of a body, or this illusion of words. And this is what's happening, so we will celebrate it. I will, or the oneness will celebrate this expression, no matter what are the consequences. And this is a very important thing. This oneness never expects anything in return. It doesn't work in the way that usual mind thinks, that something is gained, that something is happening for a reason, and the reason it's this, that something will happen because we did something. And then there's this expectation, what will happen, and we want something good to happen, and this is the merry-go-round we go on as humans. This oneness wants nothing, and it simply expresses itself much like I simply will mouth the words, will say these words, and everything is a game. This is my game, the oneness game, and you're me and you're the game, so let's play. What is this oneness? Who made it? So this is the first question you can ask. Who made that oneness? Who created it? Was it God that created a oneness so profound and deep, and then he controls it and he masters it, and we are part of his, we are under his control. So if we ask ourselves, who made that oneness? According to human logic, this is a valid question. Who made something? Something is, so something made it, or something happened. There has to be something if there is something. Something created it. But according to this logic, that is not logical at all to the usual way of thinking. It can't happen that someone created oneness. It can't. If oneness, like I say, is everything and nothing, if it's this vast silence, this small, very small, tiny dot that contains everything, and yet it is infinitely wide. It's so wide that every description of the endlessness of this cosmos is a joke compared to its wideness, to its unlimited nature. So if this oneness is all the phenomena, everything that is happening, how can there be anything other than it? How can something exist by this oneness, alongside of this oneness, not inside of this oneness? It defies the very definition of oneness. Oneness is one. How can something create the one thing? This is the one thing. So the creator of this oneness is inside this oneness. So there is no creator of this oneness, because it is the oneness itself. This is a very strange declaration, but I stand because when I was driving in my car and I was separate, Simcha was separate, and everything was happening in her life, and there was a story and identification, so everything was clear to me, just as you know that the sun rises up in the morning. I knew, just as you know now. It's an unshakable knowing. It's something you can't defy. It's something you can't even doubt. No doubts. This was me. In a split second, this perception was shattered. And I knew I am the oneness without Simcha, that Simcha never existed in the first place, and that there is nothing happening, because oneness is nothing. So from the very point of realizing myself, nothing happened. Nothing happens in Simcha's life, even though there are many expressions in front of the eyes of the oneness who sees. But it knows that, as always, nothing really happens. Nothing will ever happen. There is only still, silent. We can't use the term energy because it's not an energy. Energy is a term that is living inside this reality. You can shift the energy, you preserve the energy, you deal with energy. This is not energy. It's so different. It's not in the vocabulary. If there was a dictionary that you know and you use to interpret the world, this dictionary is like worthless. There is no definition of this oneness in the dictionary. You have to throw away the dictionary. There is no, it has no meaning. It's all describing the lie. The real thing cannot be described in a dictionary or in any other way, in words. So when the split second happened 4 years ago, and the knowing that I am what I was always and what is always, this oneness who is still. then the question of who created that oneness was answered. I know. I created this oneness. It's very simple, because I am that oneness. I created it. I was always here and will always be here. And this is the state. When I say I am oneness, I do not mean that Simcha is oneness and everyone else is not. I do not mean it like this at all. And it doesn't matter that Simcha knows she's oneness. It doesn't matter if someone who's watching me doesn't feel that he's oneness, even though he thinks he's oneness, but it doesn't feel it and know it. It doesn't matter. He is oneness anyway. This is oneness anyway. Nothing can change this. Nothing is happening. I am not speaking right now. You are not listening right now. There is no exchanging of ideas from one mind to another mind and trying to open the other mind and to see that. There is only this expression, the illusory expression. Oneness was not created by anyone, by anything. It is its creator. It is what is. And to describe what does it mean when I say this oneness is not defined by a place or a timeline. When I say it doesn't exist in a place that you can reach, not even a metaphorical place, and it doesn't exist on a timeline that you will reach somewhere in your life when you're ready. It will not be gained in the future, because the oneness is always this moment, always. This moment is the oneness. Your moment, your separate moment, is your expression of this oneness. It's a different expression than mine, but it's equally unreal. It's so wonderful that the oneness can express itself in so many points of view. And yet all these points of view are connected and unreal. Nothing is happening or will ever happen. This tiny dot, unbelievable anti-space, anti-time. How can you grasp that there is no time when you look at me and you say, wow, she's been talking for 7 minutes. This was time. This is time. This is not time. This is the illusion of time. And this is what you know. So when I say oneness could have not started because there is no time. So how could it start? Somewhere in the past. It started from somewhere in the past. You have to have a timeline to start from something and to get to something. And when will it end? If you eliminate this time factor, you will easily see that it cannot have been created in a certain point in time. This is this logic, the logic of oneness. It's different from the usual way of thinking, but I'm trying to define it, to tell about it, to express it. So, if there is no timeline, there is no time, there could not have been any point in which this oneness was created. Any point. So it has always been here. This is what is. Because this is what is, it has no creator, there's nothing outside of it, and it was never created on a timeline. There is no place that this oneness began. It's very hard to perceive how something could exist always, without a beginning. But this is the case. And if you think about it, I think it's very, very logical. This is a very logical conclusion, because this mystery of when did everything start, scientists are working on it, and philosophers work on it, and there are many answers. But this is a very simple answer. And it only needs to bridge the gap between the normal thinking and this thinking, between the normal perception of reality in terms of time and space, to a different view on reality that doesn't contain time or space. This is why I say that it's incomprehensible to the usual process of thinking. So these two questions, who created oneness, when did it create oneness, are simple to answer. No one created oneness. Oneness created itself. It never created itself because it doesn't exist on a timeline. So, and there's the third question, perhaps the most important one of all. Why? Why that oneness is doing all this expressing, all this work, all this amazingly complicated thing. Why does it happen? So first, it doesn't happen. Everything we see and perceive in our reality doesn't really happen. No. There is no matter, time and space, there is no separate forms, nothing is happening to them, even when they die, even when something horrible happens, even when something magnificent happens. It never has actual realness in it. It's never the thing that you think it is. It's always this oneness, nothingness, doing nothing, staying still, very, 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 very calm. Not calm like a person who has had something that distressed him and now he is calm, calmer. This is not the world calm. This is like a serene environment. The place, if you try to think in your life, when you feel most grounded, safe, and you can let go of everything, because this is the one place you know is amazingly secure and safe and calm, and nothing can touch this place. I don't know if you have such a place in your lives. Wow, this is a great place to be in. But this is the feel of it. This oneness is serene. So why does it express itself in such a sometimes brutal way? Sometimes unimaginable things happen, cruel things. Oh, the cruelty of it. How can it allow it? Why doesn't the oneness act to make it better? Why doesn't oneness redeem itself? Why doesn't everyone wake up and discover that there's this pure thing or nothingness, and then they can live in harmony? Why doesn't it happen? What does this oneness want from us? Why does it make us suffer so much? Why does it make the world suffer so much? So, oneness has no agenda. It's not God that is wanting everyone to improve themselves. When I say that it doesn't want humanity to improve itself, I don't mean that humanity shouldn't improve itself and be the best humanity it can, the kindest humanity it can, the most compassionate humanity it can. I'm just describing what is right now. And this is the most any of us can do in this reality. Understand where we are. So I'm describing what's happening right now in humanity. This is the state. And if this is the state of humanity, this is how we got to this point through everything that happened in humanity so far, throughout history. So this is the place we are in. We can only accept that this is the place humanity got to. It's not very evolved, but this is the place. It's not that oneness wanted humanity to evolve. Oneness is telling a story through the different forms. Like any story, it has to have a protagonist, a hero. And the hero, when I was studying in film school, the first lesson in script writing was the hero has to have problems. If he doesn't have problems, your script is very dull and it will never be interesting. So everything that happens in this reality, in this oneness, that is a problem, that is bad, is part of the story. It's a tool oneness uses to express the hero's journey. And if he has many difficulties, wow, this type of character is very interesting. And it can get to very interesting places, maybe mental health, mental places, or outer places in the world, if it goes on a search or on a quest. But it wants the story to be interesting, to be meaningful. The story of the characters, that life should have meaning. How could life have a meaning if you don't overcome anything? How can the story, if your story, be interesting, be insightful, be inspirational, if you don't cope with anything? This is the way you cope with the story, is the story. And this is what oneness wants you to do. Oneness, you. When I say oneness, I mean you, me, everything. This is what we want. We want the story to be inspirational. We want the story to be sensational, big. We can't do that if all the stories were the same, if reality didn't have problems in it. So in our life it may be small problems, but in the vast story oneness is telling, it has, the tools are bigger, wars, and so many enormous things that humanity experiences as humanity, women, all the suffering women throughout the ages suffered as a gender, the story of womanhood. Everything is meant to build up this story. And oneness doesn't judge its tools. It's not God that's saying, okay, the guys that are playing the good guys I'll love and take to heaven, and these guys who are playing the bad guys, they will get hell. It's not the case. Both of them are unreal, and both of them are equal. One just wants the story to be open and so amazing. An open story can only happen if the character copes with its problems in a moral way. Good, the good force, is always stronger than the bad force in opening things up, in developing, in growing. The forces of evil or bad close things, eliminate things, destroy things, and the powers of good build things. So if you want an expression, like if there is an expression of plant, the good forces will water it and give it sun, so it will grow and it will be a tree, and maybe it will bring us fruit. But if the evil forces tend to it, maybe they'll spill something on it like poison and poison it and kill it. The plant is a plant. The idea of a plant is a plant, is something. It doesn't matter if it's dead because of the evil or it's flourishing because of the good. It's the same plant. It's the expression that it is different. So oneness wants the expression to be open, to have fruits, to see everything it can see, and the power of good enables it to do it. So oneness in its nature wants good, wants compassion. It can contain within itself, because it contains everything, it contains the bad forces. It is strong enough and whole enough to enable the bad to express itself. But it prefers the good, because the good makes the expression so vast. And this is all it wants, to see all its glory. The good forces enables it to see all its glories. So the nature of oneness is, in human words and terms, is compassion, is good, is love. It's like if oneness was one person, it was the kindest, most helpful, most friendly, light, humorous man you would ever meet in your life, who only wants your best interest. This is the nature of this oneness. It's not cold and indifference. It is indifferent to the expression, to the unreal expression, if it's good or bad. But the nature, its nature, is so, so amazing. Compassion. This is the closest word I can find, because compassion is not love. Love, as humans know it, is connected to something. This is only pure wanting to express kindly. So oneness was not created by anyone. We are that oneness. It was never created on a timeline. It has no purpose except of expressing itself. But it expresses itself mostly when we obey the moral standards that we know are true inside of us. What is good? The oneness is not being, because being is connected to something. Oneness, the all nothingness, I call it, everything inside of the nothing, the connection of it is nowhere to be found, and it is everywhere.
Nothing good, nothing bad, nothing ventured, nothing gained, nothing stillborn or lost, nothing further.